What's going on, folks? It's Sunday, January 7th, 2024. I wanted to do a update on the market and give y'all an understanding of where I believe the crypto landscape is and how I think the next maybe month or two, especially January and maybe even up until February, how I believe these 2 months are going to shape up. And then I'll give you all an understanding of what I think is going to happen the remainder of the year into the end of 2024. Okay. So first things first, today crypto prices, especially for BTC, currently sitting at 44,000 and some change. Ethereum sits at 2,200 and some change, and Solana close to 94 or $95. I think these three are probably the most important assets right now. Everything else is secondary or tertiary. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to give y'all an understanding of, based on today's date, the current landscape of the market and just overall structure where I believe things are ahead of this ETF, right? We have this spot ETF that's going to come about pretty much in the next week, right? Spot ETF that's lining up probably sometime in January, okay? It's more than likely January, right? So, we're just going to say that, okay, it's going to be next week probably, right? If it's not January, I would figure it's going to be sometime delayed till the end of the year, okay? Now, I believe that when the ETF was announced, which was sometime here in September, October, if I'm not mistaken, we've already had this massive run up in the market, okay? So this run up kind of tells you that the market is relatively positively positioned into the ETF. We don't need to have a run after the ETF is already listed because, again, the market is so heavily run up. And usually, more often than not in crypto markets, the news itself of something, the rumor is, the time where the markets run up. And the actual news or the event happening is when the markets start to move down, right? Because the pricing in has already happened. Crypto markets are very efficient in that sense, where the rumor itself does start pricing in a lot of the anticipated movement and possibly the risks well before they are established. Okay, so the spot ETF coming up, BTC has already run up, and we have effectively a market structure that looks currently like this. Now, where do I think the next few months, especially January and February, are going to pan out? Well, I think that from here, okay, this to me looks like a possible distribution structure. Maybe we squeeze up a little bit more, but I do believe that we're probably going to come back to 38 and possibly somewhere between, I don't know, 31 and 32K, somewhere around here. We could, wick lower, but for the most part, I believe this is going to be the structure that's going to be established prior to the halving, which is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, sometime in May or April, right? So correct me if I'm wrong, obviously, right? But I do think that it's at the earliest April and at the latest sometime in mid-May or late May, okay? So after the halving is when we should expect, some upward movement in price and head into 2025, quite possibly that 100K target somewhere up here, right? Now, again, this is assuming that prior halvings have somewhat of an established, price prediction for BTC. Now, it's possible that maybe the halving doesn't, and maybe this is all we get for, prior to the halving, and we head down into the halving, and maybe we go much, much lower than anticipated, and we skip the halving pump, and then maybe 2025, we then push higher, right? That's also possible. But I would say that's unlikely, okay? Unlikely. All right, let me just finish that off. Unlikely to have something like this, okay? So I just wanted to make that clear before, someone looks at the chart and says, oh, this person is crazy. I'm just mapping out the possibilities for you. And the same goes for Solana, right? I've talked about Solana as one of the most important assets in the crypto ecosystem right now, aside from Bitcoin and ETH, right? Ethereum is clearly the top dog in the market. And I do believe that Ethereum is going to stay around for a long period of time. It's going to have its market share chipped off by Solana, because I don't believe that Solana at 40 billion and Ethereum at 260 billion, I don't think these two make sense. I think the gap will close. And the gap is kind of represented by something like this, right? So if I do Sol ETH, okay, Sol ETH right now is a representation by ratio, right? How much is Solana in terms of the um, I guess, relative value of ETH. And this is kind of the price ratio that we have right now. Okay. Solana as a price effectively is, at $93 and Ethereum is at 2,200. And that ratio is, pretty much close to 0.04, right? I think that ratio is going to break further down before it just explodes higher sometime, next year. Okay. That's how I think things are going to pan out headed into 2024 and 2025 late. But into February, March, into the halving, I do think that this ratio is going to break down, because I think a lot has already been priced into Solana in terms of its momentum, its movement. We had a lot of sort of meme coin seasons that happened on Solana. A lot of money flowed into really just garbage stuff, things that didn't really matter. And you could see, I created this list for some people who look at some altcoins, some meme coins or whatever. And there's just a lot going on in terms of the meme coin nature. And obviously, Solana is more than just meme coins, right? But the point is meme coins added to the negative attention that Solana got. And I think that's going to take a little bit of time to get cleaned up. And I think we're going to give that time about, maybe 2 to 3 months. Because, it doesn't take that long, in my opinion, for meme coins to get cleaned up in terms of that money being drained out of these coins and rotated back into Solana, which is technically where it should be, right? Not only Solana, but other good projects like something like Meteora, right? Where you can do a lot of liquidity pooling, farming. You could provide liquidity to all these different altcoins that are there. Here's a simple example, right? Like used car is giving about 382% TVL, or sorry, yield in terms of its TVL. And that's a really high yield, right? We've seen this in the past where once the yield is really, really extreme like this, even something like I was looking at Rocky this morning, right? You're getting a shit ton of yield just for, putting in your Rocky tokens and USDC or Rocky and Sol. And that's fantastic because, you can harvest that yield and basically, take that as profit sometime in the near future, because it's just free money, really. Obviously, if that money goes to zero, meaning if the Rocky tokens goes to zero, then you're fucked. But if you don't believe that's the case, and you think that Rocky as a token, which is giving you 999% yield, or something like WIF, which is giving you 90%, or used car, which is giving you 380%, if these things you believe are going to do sometime in the middle of the year, end of the year, then this yield is helpful for you, because you're basically getting free money or free tokens given to you in yield for basically providing this kind of liquidity and staking effectively, right? So I do think that Meteora-like platforms or Jupiter are going to do really well. I think platforms in general are going to do really well. Another platform is Tensor. Tensor, I think, more than likely is going to release a token at some time later this year. I think that token is going to be, in my opinion, worth a lot, simply because I think NFT platforms are really bad in general, but Tensor as a NFT platform is really solid. Tensorians is their NFT, which again, you can effectively buy as kind of like a stake, in their platform, right? I think it gives you, I don't know, opportunity to capitalize on the upward movement of the NFT prices, as well as maybe less fees, maybe a higher probability of you getting more airdrop tokens from the platform itself. So all kinds of cool stuff, right? Again, none of this is investment advice, and I'm just telling you how I see the landscape in Solana as an ecosystem right now. And I believe that Solana is going to pull back a decent amount. My area for Solana in terms of buying opportunity is anywhere between like $60 to maybe 45, $50. So this zone in general, I really do think that we're going to come back into sometime like maybe Feb/March buy, right? That's how I think Solana is going to come into this zone right here. And once it does, right, like what that does for us is it gives kind of a cooling off period where prices are effectively down almost 60% in Sol USD terms, right? Once they're down 60% Sol USD terms, like you can bet your butt that, these assets, like let's just say, for example, Draco, right? I think this thing is going to get crushed maybe to 1 million or 2 million market cap easily, right? Maybe Rocky, the dog token is going to get crushed, I don't know, to like 400,000 or 300,000 total market cap. So this gives us an opportunity if you believe that Solana as a ecosystem, or let's just say Rocky as a meme coin, were really expensive, even though they were $4 or $5 million market cap coins. But if you believe that that was too expensive, but if you wait long enough in the next few months, then you get an opportunity for a much cheaper price, which could be at 400K or 500K or maybe even 200K market cap. Now, I'm not saying that makes it a good buy. Even then, I'm just saying it's a better buy at that point versus now, right? Or like, a few weeks back. Okay. So that's my overall thought process on Sol ETH, how I think that's going to pan out over the next, year or two. And then we have kind of the other outlook on the market, which is total to market cap, right? Total to market cap is kind of our visual on basically altcoins. Okay. Altcoins in general, I think have had a pretty solid, last 3 or 4 months. They went from 500 billion to close to about 850, $900 billion. I think that's a pretty decent run, right? But I think in that, once again, I think a lot of froth was created. Like I said, right, I think Solana generated a lot of that froth by its like meme coin season. I think Injective also did really well in the last maybe year or so. Let me show y'all Injective, right? Injective basically went from, pretty much, and by the way, I had pointed out Injective to our community sometime like less than $1, or sorry, less than $2. So sometime like beginning of January last year. You can go back into our Discord and kind of see Injective and when I pointed it out. But now it's up almost, 30, 35x, right? That's a substantial move. But now I think Injective as an ecosystem is competing for flows from too many other ecosystems, right? Injective is still relatively small in terms of its offering of dApps and protocols and even money. Helix is one of those ecosystems that I use from time to time, here and there. It's again kind of like your swap DEX, providing liquidity, etc. Talus is your other sort of NFT art ecosystem, or sorry, NFT art dApp. This is again part of the Injective ecosystem. But the point I'm trying to make is Injective, Solana, these things that we have going have contributed largely to this rise in the total to market cap. And I think that's going to get cleaned up as money finds its way back to where productive assets are, where money and attention can accrue headed into 2024 and 2025. And I do believe that 2024 and 2025 are going to give about, really great opportunities for us to um, take advantage of this market, which I think is going to do really, really well headed into, end of year, right? So something like that is kind of what I foresee um, headed into 2024 end and 2025 beginning. Okay. Now, as we kind of map that out, right? As I've spoken about before, this is kind of what I believe in as the overall path. And I think that's going to obviously pan out for BTC in the same way where, we're going to have some sort of maybe sharp pullback like that, head into the halving event. We're probably going to rise like previous halvings have, into 110, 120K in my opinion, by end of this year, next year. Okay. I think that's more than likely going to be the case in my opinion. Now, Solana, again, as I've talked about before, has many, many other products, I believe, that are much more fun and relatively well priced, as well as lots of future opportunities that could give you airdrops, could give you early stage entries in projects like Drip House, for example, is one where if you really do love art and NFTs, you could basically connect your wallet, you buy some drip, and you could start basically giving money or thanks to some of these projects like Doodle Devils, right? Doodle Devils is going to basically be building, all kinds of cool stuff where they might have a token, they might have, a future game, other collectibles, right? Again, this is one of many projects that's coming out of an area like Drip House. So you got to pay attention to where cool things are happening, right? And Drip House is one of those places. Doodles could be um, one of those, opportunity NFT projects that you want to look at. Ovals NFT I've also spoken about before. I'm a huge fan. I own some Ovals. I own some Ovals tokens too. So again, this is not investment advice, but I'm just telling you that places like this is where you need to start looking and seeing where money could accrue, where opportunity and growth could accrue. Okay, and this is again all Solana. Meteora is Solana. Rocky, the meme coin is Solana, right? Meteora, I already said, is Solana. Tensor Trade is Solana. Drip House, Solana. Ovals, Solana. Draco, again, another meme coin, but they're trying to build more stuff, also Solana. So I actually think that Solana, again, is still the ecosystem where you really, really want to be looking, right? So let me close out of this and close our Solana discussion topic, right? Because I've discussed NFTs, I've discussed Meteora and yield farming opportunities there. I've discussed NFT opportunities and NFT platforms like Tensor. Now we talk about other ecosystems like Celestia, right? Now Celestia has made obviously substantial moves in its price pretty much from November, right? It went from $2 to almost 15 now. But the point is, like, again, Celestia is relatively very small ecosystem, right? There's really not a whole lot to do. I tried it. I don't find anything that special about it. I just think, Solana or even Ethereum ecosystem like L2s are better, right? They have things like, osmosis bridges or connections that you can make where you can stake your assets and you can trade perps via the Levana protocol. Then they have Dimension, which is roll apps. Again, I tried, these things on Dimension a little bit, but I don't see the allure to things like this other than it's like a new shiny object, right? A new shiny object where you're kind of early hoping to capture yield or hoping to, play some game or buy some NFT that may appreciate in value or whatever, right? So there's really nothing new that I feel like is being built. And I think same goes for the Say ecosystem, right? Say ecosystem, I use their Compass wallet. It's not even as good as Phantom in my opinion. So they got a ways to go. But again, I'm not trying to hate on them. I'm just saying that I'm not quite sure what the allure is of things like Dimension or Celestia or the Say ecosystem because I'm trying it and I don't see the excitement. Dagora is their NFT sort of, launch pad or platform. They have Saiyans as sort of their, Say ecosystem NFT, which is pretty popular. I'm sure you've seen people talk about it on Twitter. Um, there's all kinds of cool stuff like in terms of NFTs, but again, the concepts have relatively remained the same for these newer L1s that are popping up. And I think that kind of scares me because I feel like it's making crypto as a asset class a little bit more complacent because everyone's just trying to basically, um, do the same thing over and over. Like no one's really trying new things. They're trying to go after the same markets that have existed pretty much for the last 4 or 5 years by really not doing anything new. Maybe a slightly faster chain, slightly different NFT, maybe more yield here and there, but it's all the same. And I think that you know, basically kind of lack of flavors, if you will, or rather, it's the same flavor, but in a different veil, is giving me a little bit of paranoia because it helps me think that I don't think we're innovating enough, right? Again, a Levana protocol is part of Injective. It's also part of Celestia, and you can trade on this protocol. But again, it's just another DEX. It's no different than something like DYDX or Zeta Markets, right? I mean, all these things are the same. Like Zeta Markets is on, um, let me see, Zeta Market. Okay, Zeta Market is on Solana. Okay, where the heck is Zeta? Oh, actually, I don't think it has a coin yet. That's probably why. Okay. I think I know what's going on. Okay, so here's Zeta Markets, right? So I've traded on Zeta Markets. Again, it's just a DEX. But the point is that Zeta, we have what's the other one? I'm part of their group, Drift protocol. That's another. These are all different protocols that are DEXs, but again, the concept remains the same, right? Whether it be Drift, whether it be Zeta, whether it be Levana protocol, nothing is innovating, at least to the degree where I'm impressed. You know, Tatami is kind of your game publishing. Now, this is kind of new. This is part of the Say ecosystem, if I'm not mistaken. And this is, slightly newer and better, where it's something different. But again, they have yet to build, right? Like they have yet to publish good games that are super attractive and that are garnering a lot of users because they just find it to be fun. And by the way, you can earn your airdrop if you just want to give your Say ecosystem address, which you can use with this Compass wallet. Um, okay. And then the other sort of L2, maybe modular style ecosystem protocols like within EVM, right, are things like Scale. And I talked about Scale before because again, Ethereum still is the dominant ecosystem, right? Like as much as people want to talk about Solana replacing ETH, it's not going to happen anytime soon. I think Solana will chip away at its market cap and price, but the reality is Ethereum is just very vast, right? It's big. People like Scale or Polygon or Arbitrum, all these benefit from the security of Ethereum as a foundational layer. They also benefit from Ethereum as the security base, right? So anyway, Scale I think is going to do, relatively well benefiting off ETH, and also they have, these gasless transactions, which is really cool. And one of their protocols that they have is Ruby Exchange. Now again, Ruby is relatively cheaper. Now this is the only thing to me that's different or more, let's just say a little bit more attractive about Ruby, which is that it's cheaper on a market cap basis, and they're giving good yield to stake your Ruby tokens, right? But once again, it's kind of like the whole idea of attention economy, where you can only attract so many people with the same stuff across all these different ecosystems, right? Like Matic and Aptos and Arbitrum and Say and SKL and AVAX kind of all sort of, are competing for the same users for the same money, really. And they're just offering the same stuff. So it tells me that we need to figure out, new opportunities to bring on users and to actually have them stay on one or very few protocols rather than saturating the market with 10 to 50 other L1s or L2s being built out. Okay. So anyway, that's kind of where I am right now. Again, and again, Cosmos itself, again, a huge behemoth, which is, Cosmos Chain or Cosmwasm. They have side chains, or I don't know what they're called exactly. I think they're called side chains, but again, that is, another behemoth in and of itself, where Cosmos has its own world of ecosystem and things being built either on the side of Cosmos using the IBC, or using, Osmosis, which is another, connected chain to Cosmos. So anyway, I know there's a lot happening, right? But the point is, that's the point. There is a lot happening. And I don't think that the market right now is going to just go up with everything happening all at once. There's really not enough money or even attention span that people have to be allotted and allocated to everything. So I think things need to simmer down over the next few months, and attention needs to find itself going into certain things that are extremely attractive or fun or different. And probably Solana is going to be a big driver, but there may be other drivers that are slowly coming up. It could be scale. I don't know, right? It could be other things that are slowly developing. But the point is that in the next, few weeks, or at minimum, 1 to 2 months, I think the market needs to cool off, right? And in that cooling off, the market will emerge with its own thesis of where it thinks money and attention and users will accrue, okay? And we'll wait for that, right? A little bit more patiently. One final thought that I just want to talk about, again, Doodles, Devils, NFTs, all that stuff I've spoken about already. But I also think that one of the interesting areas that money is flowing into is Deepin, right? Deepin is decentralized physical infrastructure networks as a large category, where you have Arweave as I think Arweave is storage solutions, but decentralized. Filecoin also same thing, storage solutions, but decentralized. HNT is Helium. I think that's Wi-Fi, if I'm not mistaken, which is Wi-Fi and access and internet decentralized. Render token is GPU capacity decentralized. Honey and Hive Mapper is mapping decentralized. And then finally, you have something like Power, which is one of the projects I followed like years ago. If you were around from 2017 or 18, I spoke about Power as a really unique project, but it took like almost 5-6 years now, as you can see, for Power to still even make any dent in the market. But who knows? Maybe slowly it's coming about in its own right, where they've been building for so long, and I think finally maybe they're ready to catch advantage of this Deepin wave. And Power being this behemoth, where they have 6-year head start of building and connected with many nations and countries and energy companies, are going to possibly dominate, headed into this future Deepin category, attracting more money, right? So pay attention to Power Ledger. This is one of the few Deepin projects, I believe, before Deepin ever even existed and was a thing, right? I talked about it here. Okay. It's been 5, 6 years since their launch. Who knows? This is probably one of the only projects on Ethereum, and it could do really well headed into, a possible year or a quarter of Deepin. Okay. I'm not going to really talk about gaming. I'm not going to talk about other things because there's just, so much to talk about. But I hope to do more videos like this where I show you, the landscape of how I see things panning out, where how, from a month to month basis, where money is accruing, where I think markets are a little bit more overextended rather, in how I think things are going to pan out, for the remainder of the year based on key events or market structure. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Good luck. Take care. Cheers.